Okay, today I'm going to share a time that I had this really intense road rage. And afterwards, instead of having regret, I was actually really proud of myself for it. Hi, my name is Briana Hansen, and this is A Spark. So I travel a lot for the current phase of life, the manifestation of me that currently exists. I'm a keynote speaker, and especially seasonally, it can get really busy during certain seasons of the year. I'm at colleges a lot, and so during like orientations and certain theme months, my services are in higher demand. So it is very easy for me to get very drained during those particular times of the year. I do my best to find balance like all of us attempt to, but it's not always easy. And part of the issue is when I travel, I try and do my best to be home as much as possible. So certain times of the year, I have to be gone for longer periods, but if and when I can, I'm almost always coming back to LA. Even if it's just like a quick drop off, a quick hello, see my kids, put them to bed, and then I'm on a red eye. It sounds exhausting, and it is, but it's not year round. So the point is, when I travel, I do a good job of creating these really strict itineraries. And within them, I am often getting up very early on different time zones to do my best to leave enough space that I'm comfortable getting to my gig in time, but also hoping to get back to my kids as quickly as possible. So, in the process of that, basically from the night before, whenever that little mini travel marathon is going to happen, I am kind of prepping myself. I'm sleeping as much as I can. I'm exercising as much as I can. I'm eating as many healthy foods as I can. I'm like getting ready. But inevitably, by the end of one of these stints, whether it's been a really intense, like 48 hours or 3 days, or even in 24 hours where I've slept like two of them on an airplane, I do a good job of most of the trip being in a really good headspace. However, there's a period where I have gotten back to LA and I get to my car, which is usually parked in economy parking, humble brag. I get to my car and then I get in my car and I start to drive home. And it's like 20, 25 minutes without traffic. How LA is that? With or without traffic? Without traffic, it's like 25-ish minutes to get home. And that is when I am the most volatile. It's like my body starts to be aware that the marathon we've just been on is almost over and I'm just starting to shut down. Years ago, I hiked the Camino de Santiago, which I will talk about in future podcasts. But for our purposes, I found no matter what, no matter how far I was hiking, whether I was hiking like 3 kilometers that day, it's in Europe, so I say kilometers because I'm fancy, whether it was like 3 kilometers or it was like 15 kilometers or whatever it was, whatever the amount of hike it was, it didn't matter. The second I entered the town that I was going to be staying in that night, my body would start to shut down. Well, the same thing happens when I go on these sort of marathon travel sessions. The second I get in my car and I get towards the 405, again, so LA, and I get towards the 405 and I'm on my way home, all of the patience I've had for all of the travel and all of the exhaustion up to that point is pretty quickly shattered. So it was in that little window that I had one of my biggest road rage. It's road rage, but should we change it to road rage? Because it's more fun to say. Road rage incidents. What happened was this. There's a way you get on the 405, the way it's boring to say, but if you've listened to this and you've been in a car at any point, you know, sometimes there 2 lanes can go down to 1, or sometimes there is a turn lane and a lane that is not for turning, a lane that is for going straight forward. That's all you need to know for the purposes of this. I had waited in a relatively long line for a lane that was turning to get onto the road I needed to take to get home. And a person, just when it's my turn, it's frustrating because like there's no arrow at this particular light. There's a lot of construction. So it took me a while to get up to my turn. There's like 1 or 2 people who get to turn left per light. So it took me a minute. And again, I'm still as patient as I can be. And just as it's my turn, some person, and I know they had an LA license plate and they were carrying someone in the back seat. So I know this is a person who like drives a lot. Okay. I really want to be empathetic. And there is a version of me that's very empathetic towards this person. Like they didn't know where they were going, but I saw in his eyes he did. One person tries to cut me off just when it's my turn. And I had the windows down because in an effort to try and stay somewhat calm, when the weather's nice, I take the windows down and I like the feeling of the wind on me. And it just, again, it's just one other environmental factor that helps me to retain a little bit of calm in what I know is my most volatile emotional state, volatile and exhausted emotional state. This person tries to cut me off. They try and take my turn. And I like screamed at them. And I was like, no, you know better. You knew better. You stay away. Do not cut me off. And they like, I think they were like, oh, they were trying to pretend like they didn't like, oh, can I get in? And I'm actually a pretty generous getter inner of like cars. That's a weird thing. That's a weird way to put it. I'm pretty chill about people getting in lines and lanes when they know something is gonna, end. But in this case, you had lots of warning. There was a long line, and I had seen people in the long line attempting to do the same thing. And for those of you who don't travel a lot, especially in Los Angeles, people do this all the time. And most of the time, it does not bother me. It's like, whatever. Okay. But in this particular instance, in this moment, in this case, God, it bothered me. It bothered me. And I screamed at him. I was like, no, get away. And he kind of like, and I used my car to keep him from turning in front of me. And then he drove off the way that he needed to go, which was straight, because he was also stopping all the traffic behind him because there's only two lanes, the one that goes left with a long line and the one that goes straight that they were in and knew. Anyway, he drove off. I got my left and I started like shaking. I was kind of like angry. My immediate reaction was a justifiable one, which was like, you were a little intense back there. That was a little much, Briana. That was just like a little much. True. My other reaction, though, was like, good for you, girl. Good for you. You had a boundary. You have every right to make this left-hand turn. You have every right to go home, just like wherever they're going. You have every right to get to where you're going, just like they do. Because the default me would have been like, oh gosh, somebody needs help at my expense? Okay, no problem. And of course, altruism is great. It's the thing that keeps our society going, especially a society that is actively fraying at the bits. Acts of altruism are the only thing that are keeping our culture forwarding in any sort of positive progression. But still, I was actually like really proud of myself because it was a strong reaction and not one that comes naturally to me, one that comes naturally to my tired self, sure. But even then, it feels like sometimes my tired self would default even more to the, oh gosh, oh geez, somebody's cutting me off. Oh boy, I guess I should let them in. Or oh boy, we almost got in an accident. Instead, I was this like very powerful version of myself saying, no, you know what you're doing isn't right. Now, there are 1,000 stories that we could tell for the person in the other car. And believe me, normally I tell them. But in this case, I'm not worried about what they were doing or where they were going. And I'm much prouder of the person I was in that moment, which is a weird thing to say because it was like road ragey. Is that something you could or should even be proud of? But I was proud of it. I was proud of the fact that I said, no, you don't get to do that. Because that's hard for me to do. I did a bunch of improv when I was younger. I was all about yes and, and I'm a genuinely curious person. I really like people. I really like finding out and being curious about others. But in that, it was easy to lose myself because by saying yes to you, sometimes I was saying no to myself. But this one sweet, angry angel on the road helped teach me that actually at my core, there is a version of myself who is coming more forward daily, who balances out the version that lets people walk over her. She is a version of myself who says, no, I don't take that. No, I don't do that anymore. No, that's not what I want. What I want is to turn left on my turn and to get on one of the most notoriously traffic heavy highways in the United States and to listen to my little podcast or to watch a polo with a friend of mine while I prep and see my kids. That's what I want. And would letting that person in have made a big difference in my day? No. But it was sort of the principle of the matter. And for me, it was a learning lesson in being like, hey, you can do this. I'm not saying you always should, but you can. We sometimes say that certain emotions, anger, rage, frustration, are emotions we shouldn't feel. But the truth is they're as natural as the more joyous ones. They're as natural as like happy, excited, enthusiastic, which do feel better and are physiologically higher vibrations. So they're like way better for your body. No doubt about it. But like there's a place for anger and frustration. There's a place for rage. There's a place for indignation. Because if we all just like passively allowed the world to determine what we want, we lose ourselves in it. For decades, I'd done that. I've lost myself in letting other people and their wants and needs determine who I am and my wants and needs. But that's not balanced. I don't want to live in rage, but I am saying sometimes in some situations, it is something that can be channeled, and it can be channeled for good. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, check out the others and be sure to like and subscribe.